I am Jonathan Lehman with Nine Marks, and I'm here with Josh Manley, pastor of RAC Evangelical Church in United Arab Emirates. Josh, you wrote an article for us called Speak Only What is Good to Give Grace. Are you saying that every member of the church participates in the ministry of the word?
I am saying that because Paul is saying that. Paul seems deeply concerned with our speech in a letter that is so filled with grace, God's grace. It's remarkable that Paul then tells us that we should use our speech to give grace.
You say God uses our speech for ends we can't even fully fathom. What do you mean by that?
Well, it struck me as I was thinking about this text and looking at Ephesians. A book that Paul begins with God's love from before the foundation of the world. He stretches it out into the age to come. We'll be praising God for his grace. And then he tells us that God is building us into a dwelling place. And then when he comes to Ephesians 4, Paul's saying that our speech can be used to build each other up, to give grace to each other. And the way Paul uses grace in Ephesians is just remarkable in the fact that our speech can be used in some way to encourage, strengthen, edify, build up believers, means that God is actually using our speech for ends that I think on the last day and into eternity are going to shock us.
How would you encourage pastors to cultivate churches and cultures of membership where people use their speech to build one another up in the way Paul calls us to do?
Well, certainly we should be teaching on it. We should be preaching on it. I think it's good for pastors to be modeling it. I was thinking even about our own preaching in our application. How often are we commending our people for evidences of grace in their lives from the pulpit that we see in our congregations? Not just tell them to do different things or ways we know that they're failing, but if Paul can commend the Corinthians for ways he sees God's grace at work in their lives, we can find ways to commend our people for ways we see God at work in their lives. So I think that models it from the pulpit. And then I think you can model it in the way that you encourage discipleship and encourage your people for what you see God doing in their lives. And hopefully that will give them eyes to encourage other people, each other in the body as well.
Friends, the article is Speak Only What is Good to Give Grace by Josh Manley on the Nine Marks website. It's basic stuff. And as the basic stuff, it's like in some ways the most important stuff that we need as churches, as members, to encourage one another in love and good deeds in the life of the church. And so reflect the glory of God as a different kind of place where we use our words differently than the world around us, where social media around us uses words. So I commend the article to you. Josh, thanks for your work. Thanks for your time.